Soft Loft Originals, bringing you the best, most scintillating, absolutely unimaginable romantic stories that will thrill you, captivate you, and leave you breathless. Grab that pack of popcorn, settle into your favorite spot, stay glued to your screen, because what you're about to witness is not your ordinary love story. This is a tale of impossible choices, forbidden desires. Three men, one woman, and a contract that was supposed to be just business. Hit that subscribe button, like and share. That night, Zara couldn't sleep. She lay in her enormous bed, staring at the ceiling, replaying every moment of the past 2 weeks. Taehyun's gentle touches at the gallery, Jiwon's tender words on the mountain, Min Seok's intense gaze in the library, the way they made her laugh over breakfast, how they listened when she talked about her research, her dreams, her fears. They'd asked her to give them a real chance. She had. And somewhere along the way, the impossible had happened. She was falling for them. But more than that, she wanted them. The attraction she'd been trying to ignore had grown into a constant ache. Every casual touch sent electricity through her body. Every heated look made her breath catch. She was tired of fighting it, tired of being afraid. Around midnight, Zara made her decision. She rose, pulled on a silk robe over her nightgown, and padded barefoot down the hallway toward their shared master suite. Her heart hammered with each step. This was insane. But everything about this situation was insane. She stood outside their door, hand raised to knock, fear and desire warring inside her. Before she could lose her courage, she knocked softly. The door opened. Jiwon stood there in casual sleep pants and a t-shirt, surprise flashing across his face. "Zara, is everything all right?" Behind him, she could see Min Seok and Taehyun sitting on the bed, both in similar casual clothes, looking concerned. "I'm ready," Zara said simply, her voice barely above a whisper. Understanding dawned on all three faces. Jiwon's eyes darkened with desire. "Are you certain? We can wait longer if you need." "I'm certain," Zara said, surprised by how steady her voice was now. "I've spent 2 weeks getting to know you. You've been patient, kind, respectful. You didn't just show me Seoul, you showed me who you are. And I want this. I want you, all of you." Min Seok stood from the bed, moving toward her with predatory grace. "Once we start, we won't want to stop. Are you truly ready for that?" "Yes," Zara breathed. What followed was nothing like she'd feared. They were gentle, reverent, taking turns ensuring she was comfortable, that she wanted to continue. Jiwon was tender and patient, talking her through every touch, every sensation. Taehyun was worshipful and sweet, whispering how beautiful she was, how lucky they were. Minsok was intense and passionate, making her feel desired in ways she'd never imagined. And when it was over, they held her between them, 3 sets of arms making her feel cherished and safe. "I think I'm falling in love with you," Zara whispered into the darkness. "All of you. Is that insane?" "Not insane," Minseok murmured against her hair. "It's exactly what we hoped for." "We're falling for you too," Jiwon added, his lips brushing her shoulder. "Each of us, completely." And that night they made love to her over and over again, each one of them opening up emotions she never knew existed. Every time they took her to the highest peak, she just wanted more of it. Morning came with tangled limbs and soft kisses. They made love again in the golden light of dawn, slower this time, more confident. Zara marveled at how natural it felt, how right to be with all three of them. But as she lay there, watching Seoul's skyline through the windows, Zara couldn't help but think about how impossibly far she'd come. Just 3 weeks ago, her life had been completely different. 3 weeks earlier, Zara had been sitting in a Lagos hospital, watching her mother sleep fitfully, machines monitoring her failing body. Stage 4 breast cancer. The experimental treatment that could save her cost more than Zara's entire family would earn in a lifetime. Miss Adeyemi. She turned to find a well-dressed lawyer standing in the doorway, briefcase in hand. I represent 3 prominent Korean businessmen. They have a proposition for you. That proposition had been insane. Marry 3 childhood friends, heirs to Korea's largest corporations, to settle a succession dispute. Their fathers had spent 18 months in brutal legal battles over who deserved controlling interest when they retired. The solution: 1 wife, 1 heir who would inherit everything equally, uniting the families and ending the war. The contract was for 5 years minimum. She'd live with them, conceive within the first year, raise the child together. In exchange, her mother's treatment would be covered immediately, her family relocated to a proper home, her younger siblings' education funded, and $2 million when the contract ended. Why me? Zara had asked. You fit their requirements, the lawyer had said. 26 years old, unmarried, educated, financially desperate enough to agree, and he'd paused. Inexperienced. Their fathers insisted on traditional values. Heat had flooded Zara's face. You mean virgin? Yes. She should have refused, should have found another way. But watching her mother struggle to breathe, thinking about her father working 3 jobs at 60, remembering her sister crying because she'd have to drop out of university, Zara had signed. The wedding had been 2 days later. Surreal. Standing in traditional Korean hanbok, she didn't understand, facing 3 men she'd met only once before. Min-sok Park with his sharp jawline and sharper mind, Tae-hyun Lee with his artistic soul and gentle manner, Ji-won Kim with his quiet strength and steady gaze. 3 rings on her finger, 3 husbands, 3 strangers, but they'd surprised her. Instead of demanding immediate consummation, they'd given her 2 weeks. 2 weeks to adjust, to get to know them, to see them as more than a contract. Tae-hyun had taken her to galleries, teaching her about Korean art and culture, his passion contagious. Ji-won had taken her hiking, sharing stories about their friendship, making her laugh with childhood mishaps. Min-sok had challenged her intellectually, debating economics and policy late into the night, respecting her opinions even when he disagreed. And somewhere in those stolen 2 weeks, the impossible had happened. They'd won her heart. It had started the morning after the wedding. She'd emerged from her suite, nervous and uncertain, to find all 3 of them cooking breakfast together. The sight had been unexpectedly domestic, almost normal. You cook? She'd asked, surprised. Tae-hyun had smiled, that warm, genuine smile that would become her undoing. Our mothers insisted, said men who couldn't feed themselves were useless. Come, sit. We want to talk about these next 2 weeks. Over pancakes, they'd laid out their plan. Each would spend time with her individually, show her who they really were, give her a chance to see them as more than a business arrangement. We're asking you to give us a real chance, Min-sok had said, his intense eyes fixed on hers. 2 weeks to see if something genuine can develop. Tae-hyun had claimed her first. On their 3rd day together, he'd taken her to a private gallery showing. They'd stood before a massive abstract painting, and he'd moved close behind her, his chest almost touching her back. What do you see? He'd whispered, his breath warm against her ear. Chaos trying to become order, Zara had said, her voice shaking slightly at his proximity. Exactly. His hand had settled on her waist, light but possessive. That's what we are, isn't it? Chaos trying to find order. When she'd turned to look at him, his face had been inches from hers. Tae-hyun. Tell me you don't feel this, he'd murmured, his other hand coming up to cup her face. Tell me I'm imagining the way you lean into my touch. I can't, Zara had whispered. He'd smiled then, triumphant and tender. Good, Because I'm already falling for you, and I need to know I'm not alone in this madness. His lips had brushed her forehead, sweet and chaste, given her a wild kiss that made her kiss weak. She wanted him that moment, this minute. The heat in her lower tummy was becoming unbearable. He knew and kept her under his leash, but the promise in his eyes had been anything but innocent. Jiwon had taken her hiking the next day. At the summit, Seoul spread below them like a glittering carpet. He'd wrapped his jacket around her shoulders, his hands lingering longer than necessary. "Cold?" he'd asked. "Not anymore," Zara had admitted, hyper-aware of how close he stood. Ji-won had turned her to face him, his hands still on her shoulders. "You're stronger than you think. The way you've handled all of this, the grace and courage you show every day. It's remarkable. I don't feel strong." "Then let me show you how I see you." His hand had slid up to cup her neck, his thumb tracing her jawline. "Beautiful, brave, brilliant. Everything we never knew we needed." When he'd leaned down, his forehead resting against hers, Zara had stopped breathing. "Jiwon." "I know it's fast," he'd whispered. "I know this whole situation is insane, but I can't stop thinking about you. Can't stop wanting to know everything about you." His lips had found hers then, soft and questioning. When Zara had kissed him back, his arms had tightened around her, pulling her flush against him. The kiss had deepened, grown urgent, until they were both breathless. "Come back to me," he'd murmured against her lips. "After these 2 weeks, choose us. Choose this." Min-seok had been different. He'd challenged her, pushed her, refused to let her hide behind politeness. Their debates in the library had grown heated, both intellectually and physically. One night, after a particularly intense argument about corporate ethics, he'd stood abruptly and crossed to where she sat. "You're infuriating." "So are you," Zara had shot back, tilting her chin up defiantly. "Good." He'd planted his hands on the armrests of her chair, caging her in. "I'd be bored with someone who just agreed with everything I said. I'm not here to entertain you." "No," Min-seok had agreed, his eyes dropping to her lips. "Uno," Min-seok had agreed, his eyes dropping to her lips. "You're here to drive me completely insane, apparently." "Min-seok," she'd breathed. "Tell me to stop," he'd said, leaning closer. "Tell me you don't want this, and I'll walk away right now." But Zara couldn't. She'd been mesmerized by the heat in his eyes, the barely controlled desire in the tension of his body. "That's what I thought," he'd murmured, and then his mouth had been on hers, demanding and possessive. His hand had tangled in her hair, angling her head for deeper access. The kiss had been nothing like Ji-won's gentle exploration. This was claiming, consuming, a statement of intent. When he'd finally pulled back, they'd both been panting. "2 weeks is too long," he'd said roughly. "I want you now, but I'll wait. Because when you come to us, I want it to be your choice, your desire, not obligation." Over breakfast the next morning, all three of them together, the air had been thick with tension. Every casual touch felt charged, every glance held promise. "We're going to Lagos tomorrow," Min-seok had announced. "All of us. To meet your family properly." "Why?" Zara had asked, surprised. "Because they matter to you," Tae-hyun had said simply, "and what matters to you matters to us." The trip to Lagos had sealed it. Watching Ji-won sit with her mother holding her hand and promising to care for Zara forever. Seeing Tae-hyun help in the kitchen, laughing with her family like he'd known them for years. Observing Min-seok speak with her father with genuine respect and interest. On the flight back, Zara had realized she wasn't just falling anymore. She'd already fallen, completely, irrevocably, for all three of them. That night she'd made her decision. No more waiting, no more fear. She wanted them, and she was done pretending otherwise. which was how she'd ended up at their bedroom door at midnight, knocking softly, ready to surrender to the impossible. Now morning light filtered through the bedroom windows, painting golden stripes across tangled sheets and bare skin. Zara lay between Min Seok and Ji-won, with Tae-hyun's arm draped across all of them. She'd never felt more complete, more cherished, more terrifyingly vulnerable. "Good morning," Tae-hyun murmured against her shoulder, pressing a soft kiss there. "How do you feel?" "Different," Zara admitted. "Changed." "Regrets?" Min Seok asked, propping himself up on one elbow to study her face. "None," she said firmly. "You?" "Only that we waited 2 weeks," Ji-won said with a slight smile, his fingers tracing lazy patterns on her arm. "We could have been doing this the whole time." Zara laughed, the sound free and genuine. "I needed those 2 weeks, needed to know this was real, not just physical." "And now?" Min Seok's hand cupped her face, thumb stroking her cheek. "What do you know now?" "That I love you," Zara whispered, meeting his intense gaze. "All three of you, impossibly, insanely, completely." The words hung in the air like a benediction. Then Tae-hyun was kissing her shoulder, Ji-won was pressing his lips to her temple, and Min-seok was claiming her mouth in a kiss that spoke of possession and promise. "We love you too," they said together when they finally let her breathe. "More than we thought possible." The next weeks passed in a blur of happiness. They fell into a rhythm, the four of them learning to live together as more than just contractual partners. Mornings were spent cooking together, their easy camaraderie now laced with casual touches and stolen kisses. Evenings were spent in their shared bed, learning each other's bodies with increasing confidence and passion. Tae-hyun would pull her into his arms while they watched movies, his hands wandering beneath her shirt, mouth hot against her neck. "I can't stop touching you," he'd whisper. "Can't get enough." Ji-won would find her in the library, pull her away from her books, and make love to her slowly on the couch, his eyes never leaving hers. "I need to see you," he'd say. "Need to watch you come apart for me." Min-seok would corner her in the kitchen, lift her onto the counter and kiss her until she forgot her own name. "You're ours," he'd growl against her lips. "Say it." "Yours," she'd gasp. "All yours." One evening, 6 weeks after the wedding, Zara stood in their bathroom staring at a pregnancy test. Her hands trembled as she watched the second line appear. Positive. She was pregnant. Joy and terror warred inside her. This was the goal, the whole point of the arrangement. But now it felt like so much more. This wasn't just an heir for a corporate merger. This was their child, a product of love, not just obligation. "Zara?" Min-seok's voice came through the door. "You've been in there 20 minutes. What's wrong?" She opened the door, holding up the test wordlessly. Min-seok's eyes widened, then blazed with emotion so fierce it took her breath away. "You're pregnant." "Yes," she whispered. He pulled her into his arms, holding her so tightly she could barely breathe. "Tae-hyun, Ji-won, get in here now." Within seconds, all three men crowded into the bathroom, staring at the test she still clutched. "We're having a baby," Ji-won breathed, wonder in his voice. Tae-hyun had tears in his eyes. "Our baby, our family." They surrounded her, hands on her still flat belly, voices overlapping with plans and promises and declarations of love. Zara felt tears slip down her cheeks, overwhelmed by the rightness of this moment. "I love you," she said again. "All of you. This baby is going to be so loved." "Just like their mother," Min-seok said, kissing her fiercely. The fathers insisted on a celebration. A formal announcement to Seoul's business elite, proof that the arrangement had succeeded beyond expectations. Zara had tried to refuse, uncomfortable with the spectacle, but the men had convinced her. "Let us show you off," Tae-hyun had said, his hands framing her face. Let the world see how proud we are of you, of this family we're building." Now she stood before her mirror in their bedroom, adjusting the emerald green gown that elegantly showcased her 4-month baby bump. The pregnancy had made her curves fuller, her skin glowing. She barely recognized the woman looking back at her, so different from the desperate girl who'd signed that contract. "Stunning," Min-seok said from the doorway, his eyes raking over her with undisguised desire. "Absolutely stunning." Tae-hyun appeared beside him, already in his tuxedo. "How did we get so lucky?" "I'm the lucky one," Zara said softly. Ji-won entered, completing their trio. "Ready to face the crowd?" "As long as you're all with me." At the ballroom, hundreds of guests in formal attire filled the space. Crystal chandeliers cast prismatic light across champagne glasses and designer gowns. Zara's heart raced as they made their entrance, but Min Seok's hand at her back steadied her. The fathers took the stage first, announcing the pregnancy to applause and congratulations. Then Min Seok guided Zara up the steps, Taehyun and Ji-won flanking them. "9 months ago," Min Seok said into the microphone, his hand settling possessively on her belly, "we made an unconventional choice. Tonight, we celebrate the result of that choice, our heir, our future, our family." Taehyun took her hand, raising it to his lips. "This started as business," he said. "It became the greatest blessing of our lives." Ji-won's arm wrapped around her waist. "She saved us. From our father's war, from ourselves. She gave us purpose, family, love." Zara looked at the 3 men who'd become her whole world. "And they gave me everything," she said softly, though the microphone carried her words. "Love I never expected, a family I never imagined, a future I never dared dream of." The crowd erupted in applause, but Zara only saw them. Her husbands, the fathers of her child, the loves of her life. After the formal announcements, the celebration continued with dinner and dancing. But Zara found herself craving quiet, needing a moment away from the crowd's congratulations and curious stares. She slipped away to a private balcony overlooking Seoul's glittering skyline, the cool night air a relief against her flushed skin. She'd only been alone a moment when familiar hands settled on her shoulders. "Escaping already?" Taehyun's voice was warm against her ear as he pressed close behind her. "Just needed air," Zara said, leaning back against his chest. "It's overwhelming, all those people." "Then let me distract you." His hands slid down her arms, then around to rest on her belly. "Have I told you how incredible you look tonight? Carrying our child, glowing, absolutely radiant." Zara tilted her head back as his lips found her neck. "You might have mentioned it. Let me mention it again." He turned her in his arms, his eyes dark with desire. "You're the most beautiful thing I've ever seen, and you're ours." His kiss was deep and thorough, tasting of champagne and promise. When he finally released her, they were both breathless. "Save some for us," Ji-won's amused voice came from the doorway. He stepped onto the balcony, Min Seok right behind him. "There's plenty to go around," Zara said with a smile that would have seemed impossible 4 months ago. Min Seok prowled toward her with that predatory grace that still made her heart race. "You disappeared on us. We don't like when you disappear." "Possessive," Zara teased, but her breath caught as he backed her gently against the railing, his body pressing against hers. "Absolutely," Min Seok murmured, his hand sliding into her hair. "You're carrying our child. You're wearing our rings. You're ours in every way that matters." His kiss was demanding, claiming, reminding her exactly who she belonged to. Behind her, Taehyun's hands settled on her hips. On her other side, Ji-won's fingers intertwined with hers. "We should get back to the party," Ji-won said reasonably, though his eyes said otherwise. "People will talk." "Let them talk," Min Seok said against Zara's lips. Let them see exactly how much we love our wife. Take me home, Zara whispered. Please, I want to be alone with you, all of you. The drive back to the penthouse was charged with anticipation. In the elevator, Tae-hyun pinned her against the wall, kissing her deeply while Min Seok's hands roamed her curves and Ji-won pressed kisses to her shoulder. Patience, Ji-won murmured, but his own control was clearly fraying. They barely made it through the penthouse door before Min Seok was lifting her, carrying her toward their bedroom. Finally, he growled, I've been dying to get you out of that dress all night. What followed was tender and passionate, all three of them worshipping her changing body with reverent hands and heated mouths. They were careful with her pregnancy, but no less intense, bringing her to the edge again and again until she was boneless and satisfied. Later, wrapped in their arms, Zara felt tears slip down her cheeks. What's wrong? Ji-won asked immediately, concern flooding his face. Nothing's wrong, Zara said, laughing through her tears. Everything is so right it terrifies me. 4 months ago I was desperate and alone. Now I have 3 husbands who love me, a baby on the way. My mother is healthy. My family is secure. It feels too good to be real. It's real, Min Seok said firmly, wiping her tears with his thumb. This is our life now. Our family. I never want to lose this, Zara whispered. Lose you. You won't, Tae-hyun promised. The contract says 5 years minimum, but Zara, we're never letting you go. This isn't temporary anymore. This is forever. Forever, Ji-won echoed. You're stuck with us. Good, Zara said, fresh tears falling. Because I never want to leave. The remaining months of her pregnancy were blissful. The men were attentive to the point of being overbearing, monitoring her every move, ensuring she rested, ate properly, stayed healthy. Zara complained about being coddled, but secretly loved every moment of their protective attention. They took childbirth classes together, all 3 of them learning breathing techniques and support strategies. The instructor had been baffled at first, but their obvious devotion to Zara won her over. When labor finally came, all 3 were there, holding her hands, encouraging her through each contraction. And when their daughter was born, tiny and perfect and screaming, they all cried. She's perfect, Tae-hyun breathed, tears streaming down his face. Just like her mother, Ji-won added, kissing Zara's sweaty forehead. Min Seok held the baby with such tenderness, such wonder, that Zara fell in love with him all over again. Our daughter, he said reverently, our family. They named her Amara. It meant grace in Igbo, honoring Zara's heritage, with a Korean middle name honoring theirs. She was theirs in every way, a perfect blend of the love that had created her. 6 months after Amara's birth, Min Seok found Zara in the nursery, watching their daughter sleep. I had the contract destroyed, he said quietly. Zara turned to him, surprised. What? The contract. The one that started all this. I had it legally dissolved. You're not bound to us by obligation anymore, Zara. You're free to leave if you want. Why would you do that? Zara whispered. Because I need to know you're choosing to stay, Min Seok said, vulnerability raw in his voice. Not because of money or obligation, but because you want to be here, with us. Zara crossed to him, taking his face in her hands. I'm not going anywhere. This is my home. You 3 are my home. Our daughter is my home. I don't need a contract to keep me here, Min Seok. I need you. I love you, he said fiercely. I love you too. All of you. Forever. And she meant it. Besties, if this love story gave you all the feels, do 3 quick things right now. Hit that subscribe button. We drop epic romance stories like this every week. Smash the like button. It tells us you want more stories like Zara's. Drop a comment. Tell me, which husband stole your heart? Minsok, Taehyun, or Jiwon? And would you have signed that contract? Your support means everything and helps us bring you more incredible stories. Thanks for watching, besties. It's Soft Loft Originals bringing you the best. See you in the next one.